What's up, people? Welcome back to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we've got another massive show to bring you. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. So let's get straight on into it. So we have had a bit of an update coming out from Laurie Whitwell, who of course is a very good journalist. I like him. He writes for The Athletic in the UK. And it's about Mason Greenwood. The saga continues. We spoke about this quite a few times on the channel. I know it's a sensitive topic. I know it's one that has a lot of mixed opinions. So we're just going to stick to the facts today. I'm just going to bring you the news. So the headline is that Manchester United have apparently delayed the announcement of the future of Mason Greenwood until after the September international break. So we were obviously expecting it to be before the game today, weren't we, against Wolves? That then got postponed. Nobody knew when it was then going to be. But the Athletic have confirmed today that it will be after the international break. So the international break is from around the September the 9th. Obviously, that's when, England and all the rest of them go off and play their qualifiers. So yeah, the September the 9th is roughly when we're looking now. So they've added another month, another 5-6 weeks onto the kind of time frame. I will go through the article with you. It's a really, really big news piece, as I said, on the Athletic website. It came out about 20 minutes ago. So it says, the club initially said that they would make a call on Greenwood's future before the start of the Premier League, as we all know, but now wants to explain the findings of their internal investigation with key stakeholders, so the timeline has changed. It then goes on to say as well, which I think is really, really interesting. Obviously, they put out a story last week that they'd ultimately made their decision, Manchester United, but they wanted to consult the women's team, right? And there was people in the comment section saying they shouldn't do that. It's not up to the women. Some people said, yeah, that's great. Obviously, that caused mixed opinion and it caused divide, which it always is going to do. So Manchester United via Laurie Whitwell apparently have insisted, it says Manchester United insists the decision on Mason Greenwood's future will be taken by Richard Arnold and will be based on the facts established by the club investigation rather than the opinions of any of the women's team. Now, the reason they've done this, because when this happened last week, I said it was absolutely disgusting that Manchester United had ultimately pinned this decision on the women's team, because the amount of hate that they were getting was, honestly, it was disgusting. It really, really was. And this article has acknowledged that. So fair play to them. They said, amid the postponement, Manchester United's women's team were targeted online in response to posts from United's women's team's account. Users have petitioned Katie Zellem, Ella Toon and Mary Earps to allow Greenwood's return. The messages were seen by the players. So if anybody missed that, there was people setting up petitions directly aimed at the women's team to try and get them to agree to letting Greenwood back. And the only reason that this happened was because Manchester United are incapable of making a decision. Let's be very, very clear about that. They should have made a decision on this a very long time ago. Whichever way you want it to go, I think we can all agree that they needed to make a decision on Mason Greenwood a long time ago. They told us it was going to be the beginning of the season. It hasn't been. And then they come out with some, let's be honest, very, very poor tasting wording saying that they're going to ask the women's team what they think before they announce it. Which, to me, and to a lot of different football fans, was them saying that we've decided we want to bring him back, but we're now going to ask the women's team if they're okay with it. And obviously, as a result of that, the women's team have been getting loads of hate. They've been getting loads of abuse on social media, which is obviously completely unacceptable. And I just think the whole handling of this situation has been absolutely terrible. It really, really has. Whatever your outlook is on the situation, whether you think he deserves another chance, whether you think he should leave, obviously that's completely up to you. I'm not going to tell you what you can or cannot believe, because that's not the type of person I am. But the way that Manchester United have handled this is absolutely disgrace, to be honest. It really, really is. And I'm glad that this story has come out today by such a big journalist on such a big platform, acknowledging and trying to undo a bit of the wrongs that were done last week, because there's so much blame has been put on that women's team, and I just think it's completely uncalled for, especially when they're in, even if it was normal times, it's bad enough, but they're out there trying to win a World Cup for England at the moment, and they've got all of this pressure on them, all of these people making petitions and all the rest of it. Like, it honestly is not, it's unacceptable. The story then goes on to say that apparently Erik ten Hag is understood to be open to the prospect of Mason Greenwood returning to Manchester United's squad. So we have heard this before from other journalists, that Erik is apparently open to him coming back to the team. Obviously, again, it's not up to Erik ten Hag, it's up to Richard Arnold. Richard Arnold will make the decision, but if the decision is yes, he's coming back, Erik ten Hag is apparently open to him rejoining the team. Obviously, as I said, this decision isn't now going to be made until around mid-September. So we've got another 4 or 5 weeks of speculation, another 4 or 5 weeks of divide, of the fan base arguing, of people targeting the women's team and all the rest of it. And it is just very, very frustrating. They should have announced this a very long time ago. They should have let us know what was going on. They should have kept us informed, because all this is doing is causing conflict off the pitch. It's making fans argue with each other. It's making women, our women's team, which is something we should be really, really pushing. It's making them, you know, be harassed on social media, which is completely unacceptable. It really, really is. Obviously, with it supposed to be announced today, remember, today is our first game of the season. We should be all sat here celebrating the first game of the season, and instead, you know, they've just not been able to bite the bullet and just tell everybody what's going on, because that is what's needed to happen. We all need to know what's happening with this one. We all need to just close the page of this book and it just be done, and everyone say they've made their decision, whether you think it's right or wrong. We haven't made the decision, Manchester United have made the decision, and then you can kind of try and move on from it, you know. So it goes on to say, the club, however, insists the decision on Mason Greenwood will be taken only by Chief Executive Richard Arnold and will be based on the facts established by the club investigation, rather than the opinions of any of the women's team. It is unclear what the exact process of that investigation has been, the role the Glazer family get in the final decision, or why it has taken this amount of time. The club says that the women's team will be informed, ideally as a collective, with feedback sought, but their opinions will not govern what happens. So that's the very, very clear thing that I want to get across on this video. And this was the reason why I've done this video, to be honest. It's not only because I wanted to share with you that it's been delayed, which I think is important, because then you know what's going on, but also just to reiterate that line, their feedback will be heard, the women's team, but it will not govern, so it will not actually bear any holdings in what the decision is. So they'll be told what's going to happen, they'll give their feedback, but regardless of what they say, whatever the decision is will go ahead. Okay, so anybody, I'm sure nobody in this community is, you know, targeting the women's team or anything like that. I'm sure like you wouldn't do that, but yeah, just to be very, very clear, the women's team have not got a say in this. That's what's been put out via The Athletic, via Laurie Whitwell today. It feels very much like this has been briefed by the club. Obviously, there's been a lot of backlash in the last couple of days around this whole thing, because, yeah, to have our women's team being targeted is, of course, completely unacceptable. Now, for me, if you want my opinion on this, which I'm sure a lot of you do, all I'll say is I think that this needed to be handled a long time ago. It could have handled way better. It's been 18 months. The last time he kicked a ball was in January 2021, 18 months ago. And the fact that we're still here and nobody knows what's happening, some people want him to stay, some people want him to go, nobody knows what's going on. I mean, it seems like Manchester United even don't know what was going on. And the whole line that came out last week of that it was the women's team who were going to make the final call, like, that was just completely wrong. And I am glad that this story has come out today. And I do think it's important to do a video like this with this community where we can document this and we can speak about it and communicate together and just all acknowledge that how the Manchester United have handled it, whatever outcome you want, has been completely unacceptable. It really, really has. And it's just not the way that a club of our size, a club of our pedigree, of our history, should be handling a situation like this. Like, it should have been a clear, concise decision. They should have told everyone what was going on. And if they wanted to speak to the women's team, then fine, do that. But do it behind the scenes. Don't leak it to the press, or don't put it out there in the world that, you know, they're going to potentially have a say in it. And then today they backpedal and say the women's team don't have a say in it. It just doesn't really make any sense, to be honest. In relation to Erik ten Hag, want him back in the team, I mean, you have to look at it like, by that point, it's not really up to him. The club will have made their decision. It's up to Richard Arnold, apparently. It's up to the Glazers to make this decision. You know, once he's been allowed to come back, if that does happen, you would expect Erik ten Hag to want him back, wouldn't you, really? Because it's the club's decision. It's not Erik ten Hag. He's not there to manage those types of matters, is he? He's there to win us football matches. So I understand why Erik ten Hag would want him back. So Erik ten Hag has said the following. He says he was asked about Mason Greenwood a couple of weeks ago in a press conference, and he says, of course, I have said my ideas and opinions, but it is up to the club to make the decision. So he's obviously spoke to the club. He said whether he would like him back. Laurie Whitwell today is reporting that yes, Erik ten Hag would be open to the prospect of Mason Greenwood returning to his squad. So, you know, that's one thing there, but it all boils back to Richard Arnold. So any hate, if you want Mason Greenwood back and they decide he doesn't want to, you know, they decide he isn't going to come back, then it's not on the women's team. Like, so we just need to get over this hurdle, because I think I just think it's very distasteful, and I think it's a really, really poor example to set from the Manchester United hierarchy to have done this. But anyway, I just wanted to bring you guys this bit of news because there's so many people who keep asking me about Mason Greenwood. We have had an update today. We do know now, hopefully, when we're going to get a bit of peace on this situation. The international break is on the September the 9th, so it'll be around then we'll get some sort of announcement by the sounds of it. And just to be very, very clear, the women's team do not have any say in the decision. So just please remember that. Please try and be positive with this thing and just try and respect other people's opinions. Please let me know in the comment section how you feel about this. Let me know what you think will happen. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Daily Red Devil. I've been Kieran. Please make sure to smash a like on the video and subscribe on your way out, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.